Hey guys, Steve from Exclusive Wraps here. Just a quick video to show you guys how to remove and replace your badge kit on your car. A lot of people have been talking about replacing their badges with black badges, so we're going to take you through the steps of removing the old ones, cleaning off the glue, putting the new ones on, and how to do so safely. And I'll also chuck up a link or two in the video and probably in our descriptions showing you a couple of places you can buy them from if you want to buy them and do them yourself. If you don't, this is how we do it, so when you bring it in, you're going to know how it's done. So just quickly before we start, a couple of the things you're going to need are some masking tape, a flat card, trim tool, something like that. Ideally something plastic because it's less likely to scratch the paint. You may need a stencil knife depending on what model car, but we'll cover why you're going to need that later on. A cloth or something to clean down the area, and if you have a heat gun, that's going to help a little bit, something like this. And in some cases, a caramel wheel and a drill is also very useful. Firstly, we're going to do the side badges here. First thing you want to do, clean down the area, nice clean cloth. You don't want to scratch up your paint when you're sliding a trim tool underneath or something like that to remove the badges. So clean the area first, then you're going to take some masking tape and give yourself a little border around it, around the badge. This is going to be essentially your template for placing on your new badge, and it's also going to protect the area around it from any accidental damage. All right. Next up, you're going to take your heat gun or a hairdryer. This is not necessarily a required step, but it does help to soften the glue. So chuck it on a low heat and just warm up the badges a little bit. Doing so is just going to soften up the adhesive, make it a little bit easier to separate it from the paint. Now, I'm going to take a plastic trim tool and just slide that in gently following the badge and remove them like so. I should also mention, you can do this with fishing line as well if you have some. Do be careful when using the fishing line because it is very easy to rub it against the paint and leave marks, which obviously you don't want. Go. Step 2 is removing any residual adhesive. In this case, most of it has come off with the badges, which is great. There's a couple of things that you can do to get rid of the old glue. Firstly, taking your heat gun or hairdryer and just warming it up again. This is going to help soften it up. And you can just roll it with your finger when it's soft enough to do so. The other method I will mention is you can use a caramel wheel, which is this right here. You can pick these up from Bunnings. They're around $30 or $40, I think, maybe slightly less. I assume most people have a drill. So if you have one, stick it on the end and you can use it on the paintwork. I wouldn't recommend using it on a vehicle with matte paint because it's a lot more delicate, a lot more easy to damage and very, very difficult to repair. If you have gloss paintwork and it leaves a few little swirls, that's very easy to clean up. With the caramel wheel, if you are using it, you want to use it at a low speed, not high speed. Some people, when they're using these, go full pelt because they think, oh, faster is better. It is not. Low speed is ideal, and it will basically grab the adhesive and you put a bit of pressure on there so that it presses into the glue and it just pulls it off the surface. Next up, take a bit of, what are you going to have at home? You might have a bit of rubbing alcohol, isopropyl alcohol, even maybe methylated spirits, something like that, just a little bit on a rag. I generally say don't spray it on the paint because you don't want it sitting there for too long. On a rag, or even a little bit of like goo off or something like that you get from Bunnings, just for cleaning the last little bits of adhesive that are there. This is going to give us a nice surface for the new badges to stick to. All right, beautiful. Now that that's all clean, it's ready for the new badge to go on. Take your new badge, peel off your backing, line it up with the template that you've made, and gently place it like so. Give it a bit of a rub, pull off the application tape, and we can remove our template and we're done. One thing I'll mention, guys, not all of these badges have the same adhesive. Yes, they're all double-sided tape, but for whatever reason, Mercedes or whoever manufactures these badges often uses different adhesives on them. So you'll have noticed the two side badges, the V8 bi-turbo ones, came off leaving very little glue, which was great. This AMG badge, as you can probably see, is leaving an absolute ton of glue behind. Not a big issue, but it's just a little bit irritating. Also, just another tip I will mention, don't be tempted to fold one of these badges forward and pull it like this. If you do that and you haven't dislodged the bottom correctly, you might find that you will dig into the paint on the very bottom of the badge. Less than ideal. This is the part where it's very useful to use the caramel wheel. But again, like I mentioned, if you've got matte paintwork, I don't suggest using it. Now with this rear badge, it has got quite stubborn adhesive. So in this case, I'm actually using a little bit of an adhesive removal product that we use when we're unwrapping and things like that. I mean, obviously we use it for anything adhesive based. So again, like I mentioned, Bunnings has things like Goo Off or Goo Gone or a couple of different products that you can use. Don't be too heavy handed with them because all adhesive removal products can damage paint if allowed to. So generally you want to just wipe on a small amount and then try and remove it within a minute or two. Now going back over it with the alcohol-based cleaner, so if you've got isopropyl or metho, use that after you've used an adhesive removal product. Reason for that is you don't want to try and stick new adhesive onto adhesive remover for obvious reasons. Once that's been done, dry the area back off and we can put our new badge on. Now guys, just one thing to quickly take note. A lot of these badges, obviously they're probably not genuine Mercedes parts, even though they might look it. Some of your badge spacing might be slightly out. If this bothers you, just use a bit more tape to mark out the correct spacing. Very simple to do. And you can just apply each of those badges individually if necessary. In this case, obviously the S is going to be done separately. That's going to follow this bottom edge down here, which is well sized. Also, make sure when you're buying badges for your car, you're buying the correct ones. You'll notice there's a few variations on the S. Some of them have a smaller one, which is obviously not correct in this case. We've got this one here. And again, here we have the C63 spacing is slightly out. So I'm just going to move over the C when I go to apply it. Another thing to note, guys, with the S's on a lot of these cars are a gel type badge, so they're a lot softer. You can see it's very flexible. There's a good chance that when you take this off, you may crack it or break it because of that sort of flexible, soft gel material that it's made from. Unfortunately, is what it is. Just be gentle if you can, and you might be able to save it, but I mean, given you're replacing it anyway, probably doesn't matter so much. Alrighty, managed to get that one off undamaged. Okay guys, last one is the rear star badge. Now this is going to be a little bit different depending on which car you've got. Not substantially different, but I'm going to explain it to you anyway. Any cars typically that have a flap for a rear camera or something that moves like that will have double-sided tape around the outside and 3 locator pins in the center. Other cars, such as your AMG GTs, your A45s, they will just have the locator pins and probably not the tape around the outside. Now, most of the replacement badges you get will have locator pins and they will have tape around the outside regardless of the model. So even the A45s and the GTs and so forth. Like with the other badges, we're going to tape around it, but this time not because we need the location, but just because we want to protect the paint around it, because there is double-sided adhesive around the outside. And again, like I mentioned, if you have matte paint especially, you want to be very careful with it because it is quite delicate. For all the guys with the A45s, AMG GTs, you can probably skip ahead a couple seconds. You don't need to worry about removing the glue. Just need to pick a starting point and slide your, there we go, trim tool in, and around we go. Gently, all we're doing is breaking that adhesive, as you can see. Again, a tool like this you can buy off eBay or somewhere for a couple of dollars as well. There we go. Now that we've got the adhesive separated, the next step is removing the badge with those locator pins in the center. Now, a lot of people are tempted to sort of pull from here or somewhere on the outside. I guarantee you're probably going to snap the badge. What you want to do is grab something that's a low friction sort of thin plastic, something like maybe a baking paper. It might be too brittle, but you might be able to use aluminium foil or something similar. You're going to slide it under each of the points of the star like so. Once you've got that there, pull them all up into a nice little bunch, keeping them close to the center because that's where those locator pins are, and give it a little jiggle. In the case of the badges that have the adhesive around the outside, you may need to slot your tool back in and run it back around the outside because, as you can see, there are some parts that have sort of re-tacked. All right, I think that's about it. Give it a little jiggle. You can see it's working its way out gradually. Presto. This is what you're looking at. You've got 3 locator pins, adhesive around the outside, which is this. You also notice that the spacing is different. It's to make sure that you put the star in the correct direction because a lot of these boot lids are going to have some curvature to them. If you put the star the wrong way around, obviously it's not going to sit flush. And if you look on the back of most of these badges, they've got a little arrow that shows you where up is. So that's your top pin there. Pretty straightforward. Same process as last time, a little bit of warmth to soften the adhesive, and this comes off quite nicely. Just roll it off. Grab your cloth and give it a little clean. Your alcohol solution or isopropyl metho, something like that. Take your new badge. As I mentioned, looks very much like the other ones. There's your up arrow there. Spacing should be very, very similar, and you've got the adhesive around the outside. If you have a stencil knife or a pair of tweezers, that can help to get this tape off. Take your badge, make sure it's oriented correctly, and presto. Press that adhesive down and you're good to go. Also, just a side note, if you do happen to break one of those pins, 1, 2, doesn't really matter. It will still sit just fine. The tape's going to hold it in place. But obviously it's ideal not to. And there you have it, guys. That's how you install a black badge kit on your Merc or any other car. We'll also put a few links in the description or on the video here to some of the sellers that we've used in the past for black badge kits. Obviously you can find them in many other places. Feel free to buy them wherever you like. Alternatively, if you're not looking to install these yourself, as you can see, we can do this for you. Most vehicles, you're going to be looking at around about the $250 to $300 mark for a kit supplied and installed such as this. So feel free to hit us up. The best way is via the email form on our website. It's easier to keep track. Other than that, I hope this one helps some of you guys that are going to DIY it yourself. We'll see you in the next one.